Today we take a look at the attack on Pearl Harbor and the retaliatory Doolittle raid in our History Rewind portion. I tell you one thing that is not cool about my Subaru, and I show you some Leatherman accessories I never knew about until very recently. Well, what's going on, folks? Welcome to another episode. I know it's a little later in the day, probably going up this evening, Saturday evening for the Gideonstactical show. And I always appreciate your guys' flexibility and going with me along as I learn balance in my life. Learning every season has a new set of balance points, how to rebalance your life. And that's what I'm trying to do right now with all the different things going on. So really excited for today's episode because we have a bunch of History Rewind stuff to go through, maybe some fun facts that you didn't know about before, and some cool other things that we're going to take a look at, and some things that I do not like about my Subaru, and something that really sucks about it, and something that I really like about it, so to fix that suckiness. So I'm going to share all those things with you guys here today, and I want to thank you so much for your continued support coming week in, week out, particularly for the show. You know, the show is almost kind of more like, I feel like family, like I'm talking to family when I do the show. I hope that it continues to grow and gain more traction. But I really feel like the people that regularly watch, you guys are the tight-knit group. You support the channel week in, week out. You know, we have a lot of people that'll bounce in and bounce out. Some people, they'll just watch one episode, one review, because that's the item that they're interested in, and boom, they go off and do their things and may never return to the channel ever. But you guys that watch the show, I really feel like are a deep part of family, and I just really appreciate that. So I do want to thank you for that. I want to let you know that I've been working my tail off. I was sick for 2 days this week, and so that really threw me behind with my shipping process for getting these out. These should all be going out on, what would that be, like December 12th, I believe. Monday morning, whatever that is, the 11th. Yeah, the 11th, December 11th. They should all, currently ordered patches should be shipped by that point. It took me almost 2 weeks to get them all shipped out. I apologize for the delay. You should all, because you're using the eBay, get a notification that it has been shipped, and I will have shipped it within 24 hours once that has been notified to you. And then give it about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks if you're overseas. If you haven't gotten it by then, please message me back. Let me know so that we can try and figure that out. But hopefully these will all be getting out to you guys, and definitely before Christmas. I just really appreciate all that, guys, and your patience with me. We still have when I'm filming this, about 70 left. So I will have a link in the description below over to eBay that you can go check that out. Simple way to sport the GT logo. So super cool, and it's just awesome that you guys love the logo and want it. So that's super awesome. And I want to thank you guys also for supporting us through those hyperlinks that we have below. I'm not going to go through them today. You guys know them inside and out. All those below, particularly through the Christmas season when you guys are purchasing gifts, thinking about stuff for yourself, whatever it may be. It's free for you and helps us continue to do what we do. So thank you guys so much for your continued support. Okay, so it is December 8th when I am filming this, the day after Pearl Harbor's anniversary, the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, which launched America officially and fully into World War II, fighting a war on two fronts across the world, and was really a global war unlike anything mankind has ever seen to then or has seen as of yet. And I was just thinking about, today when the news is being released and people, I'm thinking this, I think it was 77 years ago, that just the outpouring of not only support, but also of firm resolve that we are going to win this, and that men and women all over America signed up to either go into the factories to help fill jobs that men had been doing while the men went to war, women signing up all over the place for different types of military service in different ways, as well as just the outpouring of that of America, of people dropping out of high school, dropping out of college, dropping out of all of their plans to go defend freedom and to put back into order and to fight against someone who has attacked America unprovoked. And we had something similar to that in 2001, but unlike it being a country, that was more of an organization. It was harbored in different countries and things like that. But I just wonder today, if something like that, you know, a foreign entity that is a country with a flag was to attack America in that similar way, would we still be as resolved to drop everything, drop our lives, drop our plans, drop our hopes to defend what America stands for and the freedoms that we have? I don't know. I don't know that. I would hope so. I would pray so. But with so many things going on in this world, I don't know, and particularly just society and some of the things that people, the selfishness that seems to take on such a front seat. I'm concerned that if that was to happen to America and any free-loving country, would the people of that country and would the citizens of America once again rise up and say, this cannot stand, we will fight for freedom and we will not let tyranny reign? Or would they look just for some other people to do that, and I don't want to sacrifice my time and energy? I don't know. I hope so. So I just want to hit a couple facts for you that I found. This is off of history.com. I was just looking through. Just want to share some stuff. You know, it's a very interesting situation that happened. And how it all played out, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but some interesting facts here. Japanese forces trained for about a year to prepare for the attack on Pearl Harbor. They added wooden fins to their aerial torpedoes and made other modifications so that they could work on short runs at the 45-foot average depth of Pearl Harbor. So there was a lot of modifications. That was a lot of concern, you know, with the torpedoes, particularly that the Japanese had. You know, they didn't want their torpedoes to run aground and blow up prior to hitting the ship. So that was pretty interesting. And the Japanese Foreign Affairs Ministry wanted to present the United States with a declaration of war prior to the attack so that they wouldn't violate international law, but they were blocked by the Japanese military, which did not want to jeopardize the operation. So that's pretty interesting that the Foreign Ministry wanted to go through proper channels, say, hey, we're declaring war on you, and not do a surprise attack, but the military overrode that and said, no, we're going to do this, and you cannot, you know, warn them ahead of time. So pretty intense, pretty crazy there. A big thing, which, I mean, it makes sense, is that the U.S. Officials overlooked Japanese forces preparing for war and missed warning signs of the impending attack, including an interception on December 6th of Japanese message asking about berthing positions at Pearl Harbor, and a radar sighting of a large group of airplanes headed toward Oahu on the morning of December 7th. And I've read this before in different areas, and usually just history.com is good with this type of stuff. So pretty crazy that, you know, they're obviously a buildup, and we were spying on the Japanese, they were spying on us and stuff, and we just overlooked it. We just either thought it would never happen, or, you know, thought that diplomacy would win out, and very sad that we could have been more prepared for that surprise attack. Interesting, according to a 2016 article by retired Navy Commander Alan D. Zim, Japanese Captain Mitsuo Fukiada, I hope I pronounced that right, who led the aerial attack on Pearl Harbor, made a critical mistake by firing 2 flares, which signaled to his aviators that they had not caught the Americans by surprise. As a result, they used more cautious tactics and inflicted far less damage than they might have been able to. So just by an error of shooting 2 flares instead of, I think, 1 was to say that we caught them by surprise. Very interesting that they totally could have, you know, wreaked a lot more havoc, but they played it a lot safer. And then many of you even know the movie Tora Tora Tora, which is Japanese for tiger, means so tiger, tiger, tiger. It may have been inspired by a Japanese saying, a tiger goes out 2,000 miles and returns without fail. So that's why they probably picked that as their attack being successful radio code, Tora Tora Tora. The amount of ammunition once the attack had ensued that American forces shot back at the Japanese through the ships and through all the different anti-aircraft, as well as just, you know, small arms, was 284,000 rounds of ammunition was estimated that shot at the Japanese attackers. So almost 300,000 rounds in less than 2 hours shot at the Japanese attackers. Pretty crazy. And the last 2 here on interesting facts before we transition over to the Doolittle raid. And some of you know it, some of you don't. But is that there were no U.S. aircraft carriers at Pearl Harbor on the day of the attack, which enabled us to continue the fight, and in fact probably won us the war. Regardless if you believe in God or not, that has to be some sort of divine destiny, divine protection, whatever you want to call it. I believe it was divine destiny and, God's divine hand on the play of history to get those aircraft carriers out of there so that none were damaged, none were affected, and could go on about 7 months later to fight in the Battle of Midway and ultimately deal the death blow to the Japanese aircraft fleet. And then from that point on, it was just a slow attrition to get to the point of Japan surrendering. So really crazy stuff there, and really thankful that none of them were there when that happened. The last thing here is Admiral Yamamoto, the architect of the attack, did not survive to see Japan's eventual defeat. He was killed in 1943 when American fighters shot down his plane over the Solomon Islands. He was coming, I believe, back from some sort of meeting, and they just happened to catch his plane and shot him down, and he died before the Japanese surrendered. So there are just some facts about December 7th, 1941. I believe it's a very important date. It has lived in infamy to this point, and we should always remember the cost of not being prepared. Here at the channel, one of my catchphrases, stay equipped and stay prepared. Because you don't know when something may happen. And in this case, not being prepared, not being ready for what was going to happen did cost American lives. And there were obviously warning signs that we could have done at least more. Even if we still got caught by surprise, we could have been more prepared. We could have been more equipped for the situation. So, yeah, just think about that, think on that, and we're just so thankful for the sacrifices that the men and women during World War II especially did to free the world of not only Japanese imperialism, but Nazi tyranny as well, and National Socialist ideals, not only in Germany, but also in Italy. So we're just so thankful for that. So I hope you guys are getting more entertainment out of this than Pearl Harbor the movie. This was way shorter and doesn't have as many lens flares, I know, but hopefully my acting is a little bit better than some of the actors in that movie. Because that's basically what I'm going through here is you could watch the movie, and if you want 3 hours of kind of bad acting and a couple good action scenes, that's about it to watch Pearl Harbor and get basically a lot of the same information. But so I wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened on April 18th, 1942, which is the Doolittle raid. Now, the Doolittle raid was a retaliatory attack against Tokyo and Yokohama, the city of Yokohama, and a couple other cities in Japan, basically showing the Japanese, it was a surprise attack, showing them, hey, you reached out and touched us and bombed us by surprise in Pearl Harbor. Well, guess what? You're not untouchable either. Yes, there's a giant Pacific Ocean between us, and that's kind of what we as Americans thought. They're Japanese, like they're not going to go all the way across the ocean without us knowing and trying to attack us somewhere. In the same way, it was kind of like if I can talk, retaliatory, I don't know if that's the right word, retaliating against that and showing the Japanese, hey, you're not untouchable too, and we're coming for you. And we can bomb if you're going to bomb American soil in Hawaii, we're going to bomb Japanese soil on the islands of actual Japan, not other, further out islands that you don't actually, that aren't your homeland. So what they did is that they modified a bunch of B-25 bombers that are designed to be launched from, airstrips, modified them to be launched from aircraft carriers, gutted them down to basically flying gas tanks that could carry bombs, and flew them over, and they accomplished their goal of bombing these cities. Now, some interesting things that I found out about that is that the B-25 was not the first aircraft. They were first considering the Douglas B-23 Dragons, but they felt like it didn't have quite the range that they needed. And then they were also thinking of the smaller Martin B-26s, but they weren't sure that they could be modified to properly take off from aircraft carriers. So they ended up on the B-25. They felt like they could do what it needed to do for them. And that they were required to do a marathon over 2,000 miles in 13 hours for the raid. Fly that far. That is nuts. And they had to extend the B-25's 1,013 mile range capacity by another basically 700 miles, which is nuts. So again, stripping it down, they modified the heck out of these bombers so that they could take off from the flight deck, which is pretty crazy. The Japanese were not prepared for it, even though they had been discovered by some boats ahead of time, like a few hours before they had launched, I believe. And so they'd been radioed back to Japan. The Japanese were completely unprepared for it. The American bombers faced little resistance from local air defenses. Flak batteries remained mostly silent. Only one of the B-25s was damaged by anti-aircraft fire. 3 Japanese fighters attacked the bombers and were shot down by the American gunners. That's pretty impressive. Their mission complete, the raiders set a southwesterly course to China, which lay more than 1,000 miles to the southwest. They were trying to get to friendly occupied China and crash land the planes basically, and then bail out and get in the hands of Chinese friendly forces and eventually get back to America. And Doolittle thought that the raid did little. He helped run it and helped do it and all that. Most of the men were 14 of the 16 bomber crews crash landed or bailed out over Japanese occupied China, so they were captured. And so it was a really big morale booster for American forces and the American public when that news came back that they had been successful. It didn't really do a lot, to actually destroy anything. It was more of a psychological attack, not only against Japan, but a psychological boost for America in that time frame. But it also helped win the war in the Pacific, because what it did do is one of the main things that it did do is kind of freak the Japanese out and said, holy cow, well, if they can start bombing us already, then we need to get out there further and be aggressive in taking some of those little island chains quicker, so that they can't, island hop to us. And so they kind of overextended themselves and eventually got into the Battle of Midway that I referred to a little earlier, and weren't quite prepared for that. They could have maybe waited a little bit longer, but because of fear and concern, they went and did that and ultimately made some critical errors and got most of their aircraft carrier fleet sunk in that battle and lost, and really set the stage for America to begin to island hop all the way back over to Japan and ultimately make them surrender years later. So really interesting stuff. If you want to read more about it, you can go check them out, the Doolittle raid, as well as just learning about Pearl Harbor. It's good to know our history, and it's good also to remember what psychologically that does. That Pearl Harbor attack, I'm sure, was a psychological blow to Americans, and then in the same way, the Doolittle raid was a psychological attack more than anything against the Japanese, and a psychological boost for America. And we need to remember that is also extremely important in life and in warfare, that the psychological side as well as the actual tactical side of things does matter. All right, so now we're going to take a different turn. We're going to leave the history rewind and go to cool, not cool section. We haven't done this in a while, but it's been on my radar since before I started this Gideonstactical show. So something that is kind of just an annoying. I don't like things that are just like it's common sense stuff that either companies, organizations, people don't do. Common sense, it just is like duh. Okay, so I have owned 4 Subarus in my lifetime. I've owned 3 Subaru Outbacks. I've owned a 97. I've owned and then I've owned 2 2015s. One is my rollover that I had, if you guys remember back. So I had that for about a couple months, rolled that over, helped save my life. Man, if I wasn't in that vehicle, I don't know. And then the current one that we have, and then I had a 91 Subaru Loyale. Great vehicle, paid $800 for it, put like 60,000 miles on it, push button 4-wheel drive, 1.8 liter, gutless, but great gas mileage. The 4-wheel drive system was rocking, and after putting 60,000 miles on it, I sold it for a profit. So great little car that will always live in my heart. So I love Subarus. Here in the Rocky Mountains, they really work well for us. In recent years, they've really geared them well. We really like our 2015 model that we have of the Outback, and it's kind of a great family car if you don't have a very big family, and you're not wanting like a huge SUV or minivan. This is a great option, and rides a little higher for women in particular. Guys, I love riding too high too, but I know ladies sometimes that's why they like you know, SUVs because they're higher above traffic. This rides a little higher. Good budget car that has all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive is phenomenal. So I love Subaru, so don't get me wrong. But the pitch with Subaru in particular, and particularly like their, you know, Outback and Crosstrek and Forester, is like adventure, outdoors. You know, you always see them like on back roads and then in the city and then back in the back roads, and they are great for that. But if you're pitching this vehicle to me as like a crossover adventure vehicle that you can go on the weekend and go hiking and camping and biking and kayaking, and then during the week, you know, do your regular commute and not break the bank and save on gas and all that stuff, awesome. Why on God's green earth can your cup holders, not a single one out of like the 8 in the car, can handle a Nalgene bottle? It can't handle a 3.5-inch diameter bottle. It cannot. None of them. And even the most recent model, my sister just bought a Crosstrek, newest version out there, still the same problem. They're like the little tiny cup holders for like a soda can. They're like, you know, 2.5 inches or maybe it's 3 inches diameter. You know, it will not fit your general average 32-ounce Nalgene. I mean, every adventurer has a Nalgene, or if they have upgraded, they have Hydro Flasks or they have Yetis, or, you know, whatever the brand name that they like is, clean bottles that often are this diameter. I mean, it's like the adventure. Nalgene's tag name should be Adventure, and Subaru, their tag name is kind of like Adventure. So it's like you would think that the people that are selling Subarus are like, guys, we got to have cup holders, at least some in the car, that can handle Nalgenes. None of them, even to date, can handle them. And that's just really, really not cool. Well, I fixed that. This is the opposite of that is I looked online, did a little bit of research, and I'm annotating in, I think it's, man, I can't remember the name. I'm not going to jack it up. This little cup holder system, I think it's like $14 is what I paid for it. It's designed to not only hold different size bottles, but also fit in different sized cup holders from large to small, and it's basically just a widening mouth that supports it above the mounted cup holder. And I wasn't sure, you know, I bought it. I was looking on several different on Amazon. You know, I saw some with really crappy reviews, some with really good reviews. And I wanted something that I could literally just install into the cup holder right there and not like have something hanging off the side or an extra mount that I got to do. I just want something I could just go blop and just make it wider and support the Nalgene fully loaded, you know, with all 32 ounces in it. And this thing absolutely does it, whatever it is. I'm annotating it. Really, really works well. I've had it for about 6 months now. I bought it midsummer. I'll put my 48-ounce Nalgene fully loaded, and I'll take a hard turn, and it does not want to rock out and fall out. It has a little cutout for a handle, so handled mugs and cups. It allows you to be able to do that as well, and it fits nicely. It's not like a super tight snug because they have little adjustable things and stuff, but they give you even a little koozie to kind of give it a little bit of a suction, but works great. It's awesome. So if you own a vehicle, regardless if it's a Subaru or other, that does not handle a Nalgene or large 3.5-inch diameter cups, bottles, and it just drives you insane like it does me, this is a simple fix. Links below over to Amazon. It's in the Amazon list below, and just go check them out. You won't regret it. They work great. It seems to be very durable, and has been working for 6 months for me without any issue, and I recommend them to every person in my family. My whole family owns a Subaru, except for my sister. So we have like 4 Subarus right now in the family, and I recommend them to all of them to pick them up because it absolutely makes it now available to be able to put your Nalgene or largemouth bottles into the vehicle. All right, so super quick here. Guys, I'm a gear reviewer. I'm not like somebody who's like knows all things about gear. I just find stuff out. So I should have known this, but you know, this is a Leatherman Super Tool, phenomenal heavy duty tool, but it doesn't have the ability to like switch out bits. Right, and that's always been kind of a little bit of a downer to me. You can't really extend the flathead or Phillips head blades any, and it's kind of a downer. You know, you're going to get like 2 inches, and it doesn't have star drivers and, you know, Torx heads and things like that. Well, apparently they've been making them for a long time. I just didn't know about it, and they'll even fit in my pouch's back sleeve here of my Super Tool. Is this little adapter kit? It was $20. It's a little expensive for me. I would have liked to see it more like around 10 or 15. But it's a very simple little adapter piece right here that just slides right over your Phillips head screwdriver head, nice and secure. And then it does come with a few bits. It comes with some extra different size flatheads, Phillips heads, Torx, and then a few other different heads here that you can do. And then, you know, and it's designed to hold not only hex head drivers, which is really nice, but also the flathead bits, you know, that we know from, you know, I can get this out, that we know from Leatherman. So it just pops right in there, boom, and now I have an extension, and then you just pop that little bad boy off. So very cool. I'm gonna pick up a few more just for my rebar, so they'll fit on those, like the Super Tool, the rebar. There's several other ones that'll fit on. Great little adapter piece, highly recommended. I'll have those in the links below. They are a little pricey though. I would have liked to see them a little bit cheaper, and I'm sure it's just needing to be worked in. There we go. I had to use my pliers on one of these to pull out, which was kind of annoying, but it probably just needs to be worked in. So, and the fact that it'll fit inside your pouch is really nice as well. Well, there you have it, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this particular episode of the Gideon's Tactical Show. Look forward to seeing you guys next weekend. And always remember to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media, doing stuff there all the time. And finally, guys, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. Oh, don't forget, mailbag. Guys, I haven't gotten any mailbag questions in a couple weeks. Hashtag mailbag. Ask a bunch. Would love to hear some questions from you guys. Wanted to get back into the mailbag, and I haven't seen too many lately. So ask your questions. And always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. There we go. See you out there.